Hi everyone, welcome to Suresh Techs. If you are visiting our channel for the first time or if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe Suresh Techs. In our previous tutorial, we looked at HTML blocks. So we looked at div and span elements in our previous tutorial, and in this tutorial we will look at HTML classes. We had already looked at HTML class attributes in our previous tutorials. So the main use of HTML class attribute is to define equal styles for all the elements which has the same class name. For example, let me create a project here. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to have an HTML followed by an HTML closing tag, and let me have a body. Okay, let me keep an heading tag here. Say Suresh text. Okay, and I'm going to save this as classes.html. So if I open classes.html, it has to display an heading with Suresh text, right? Now this is working fine. Now let me have. So So as I said earlier, a class is used to provide equal styles for all the elements. For example, so as I said earlier, a class is used to provide an equal styles for all the elements which has the class name. For example, let me keep few more headers here. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Then so it looks like this. So if I want to if I want to style this h1 element, so how do I style it? So how do I style it? I should basically keep a style, and inside that I'll do it. So for example, if I want to keep a background color, so let me give a background color to tomato, and then I'll give some padding. Okay, so I'm going to give some padding as 20 pixels, and I'm going to give a margin of 10 pixels. So if I refresh it and if I look at here now, it looks something like this. So here now I have applied the style to h1 element. So what if I want to apply the same style to h1? So what if I want to apply the same styles to other elements, right? So I have to copy paste the same thing here. So instead of doing the same thing again and again, we can have something called a class. For example, if I say class title, okay, so I'll use the same class everywhere. Okay, so now I'll use the same class here, and I'll use the same class here, and I'm going to use the same class here. So now you can use this class to apply a style. So when you apply a style to the class, so when you apply a style to this class, it is going to be applied to all the elements which has the same class name. Now if you look at here, so you have to have an header, and inside that you can have the inside that you can have an internal style setting, right? So I'm going to keep style, and I'm going to close this. Now inside this, if you want to provide a style for a class, how do you do that? You have to specify the style name with a dot followed by the style name. Okay, this is how you have to work on. So here you can specify the background color as tomato. You can give the padding as 20 pixels, and you can give the margin as 10 pixels. Now you can remove it from here. Okay, I'm removing it from here. So now what will happen? So whatever the style we have applied to this class, the title, it is going to be applied to all these 4 h1 elements. So let me look at here now. So if you look at here, so it has applied to everywhere, right? It has applied to all the element which has the same class name. So that's the main use of a class name. Now even if you want the same style to be applied to the first element, you can have it here. So you can specify the same class name. Now if you look at here, so this will be applied to the other element. So that's the main use of HTML classes. Now as we know that h1 is a block level element, the similarly you can apply so this is a block level element, right? So similarly you can provide a class name to a inline element also. For example, consider you have an h1, for example you have a h1, so you have something like this is an error. Okay, so this is what we looked at in our previous tutorial. If I want to provide an inline element to this error, okay, so I'll say span, and I'll close it with span, and here you can provide class name. Okay, you can provide class name as error. So when you say class name as error, Now you may have okay, so you may have different classes, right? Now you may have different elements. Okay, so now to provide a style for a inline element. Okay, so this is not a block element. So previously we looked at block element. To provide, now to provide a style for an inline element, you have to provide the element name followed by a dot and then the class name. So you have to specify span followed by dot and then the class name. Now you have to open the brackets and here you can say color red. Now if you look at here, right, so this is how it looks like. So this is how you provide a class. This is how you provide a class to an entire. This is how you will provide a class to an inline element, and similarly you will provide a class to a block level element. Now this is all working fine. So here we have specified classes for different elements. You can also specify multiple classes for a single element. For example, if you look at here, you have a class called title. Similarly, you can have another class. So if you want to specify another class, you have to give a space and then followed by other class name, followed by another class name. For example, you can say error. Okay, now what will happen whenever you say the class name as error, or you can have another, so you can have another class name such as head. You have given it a z, so you have to specify head here. So this is your, okay, you have to specify dot head because it's a class. Okay, now inside that you can specify something like text size. So is not there. Font size, so font size I'm going to specify it as 30 pixels. Now what will happen, so here in this h1 element, in this h1 element, for this element we are applying, so for this element we are applying the styles from the title class and the styles from the head class. Now if you look at here, if you refresh, head dot head, we have specified dot head, right? Dot head. Now it should work, I don't know. Let me give the font size as 50. Let me try. Yes, now it is working. So because by default its font size is 30 itself, so that's why. Okay, so this is how you will work with the multiple classes. Now one more thing here, the same class can be given to different types of tags. Here if you look at here, h1 class name is title, and here also h1 class name is title. Now if you have a paragraph here, okay, so here let's say this is a paragraph. Okay, so this is a paragraph. This is a paragraph. So even here you can have the same class name, you can have the same class name as title. So it's not, it's, so 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 it's not like you have to use the same class. It's not like, it's not like you have to use a class name for a similar type of elements. So you can use a class name, you can use the same class name for different types of tags. If you look at here, when I specified p, so since I have specified, since I have specified a class name as title, the title have a background color, padding and then margin, and the same thing applied to this paragraph. So this is how you will work with classes in HTML. So let me go back to my presentation. Okay, so this is all about the class attribute. Okay, HTML class attribute used to define equal styles for the elements with the same class name, right? So using the class attribute on the inline elements, we looked at placing the class attribute for a block level element, and similarly this is, so we looked at placing a class element for a block level element, and similarly this is for an inline element. Now the note point here is the class name whatever we are specifying, this is of case sensitive, and similarly the class attribute can be used on any HTML element. Okay, so now if you look at here, in CSS to select element with a specific class, you will use a period operator, right? We use that. For our title class we use dot title. Okay, and similarly providing multiple classes, if you want to provide multiple classes for a single element, you have to separate it with a space. Similarly you can have the same class name for a different tags. It can be h2 or p, or it can be image or table, whatever it is. You can have the same class name for different tags. That's it for today. Please do subscribe to Suresh Text. Thank you so much.